Imagine sitting down at a dining table with your future in-laws, you know, sliding a neatly formatted Excel spreadsheet across the wood, and just calmly telling them they owe you $15,000 by next Tuesday.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a terrifying thought.
Right. But welcome to the 2026 wedding planning experience. I mean, we aren't just picking out cake flavors anymore.
No, not at all.
The financial landscape of getting married has transformed into this incredibly complex, highly emotional, logistical minefield.
It really has.
Yeah.
It is a fascinating collision of love, entrenched family dynamics, and just massive capital expenditure.
Yeah.
And when you mix those three elements, I mean, the volatility is off the charts. We're looking at a scenario where families have to navigate what is essentially a high-stakes corporate merger,
Basically, yeah.
but, with their closest relatives, which makes it so much messier.
And that is exactly the minefield we are navigating today. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone.
Glad to be here.
So whether you are actively planning a celebration right now, or maybe you anticipate helping a family member fund one in the near future, or honestly, if you're just fascinated by how modern social dynamics completely upend traditional personal finance.
Which is super interesting on its own.
Definitely. Our mission today is to hand you a blueprint. We are unpacking a comprehensive 2026 guide focused entirely on the modern mechanics of fairly splitting wedding costs between families.
And it is loaded with great stuff. I mean, budgeting frameworks, logistical timelines, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. Plus the psychological tools you need to avoid bankrupting your future or, destroying your family relationships before you even make it to the honeymoon.
Which is a very tangible risk right now.
Yeah.
The stakes are much, much higher now than they were even a decade ago.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because going through this material, a very specific analogy hit me. A wedding in 2026 is no longer just a large party. It operates almost exactly like a pop-up startup company. You have the couple acting as the co-founders, and they are out there trying to secure seed funding from multiple angel investors.
That is such a good way to put it.
Otherwise known as their parents and relatives, right? And every single one of those investors has completely different expectations about what kind of ROI, what return on investment their money is actually buying.
That startup analogy is incredibly accurate for today's landscape. I love that.
Thank you.
But to understand how to manage that seed funding, we first have to look at why the old model of funding completely collapsed.
Right, the traditional way.
Because traditionally, you didn't have multiple angel investors. You had one sole proprietor bankrolling the entire operation.
The bride's family.
Exactly. That was the rigid cultural expectation for generations, right? The bride's parents paid for the event. The groom's family maybe hosted a rehearsal dinner. And that was basically the end of the discussion.
But looking at the modern data from the guide, that traditional model is practically extinct.
Oh, totally dead.
The cultural rule book has just been thrown out. And it's been replaced by a much more complex focus on this idea of fairness.
Yes. Fairness is the buzzword now.
The costs are being sliced up and distributed across a much wider pool of capital. I mean, you have the couple dipping into their own savings, the bride's family contributing, the groom's family stepping up.
Even grandparents or extended relatives acting as, minor shareholders?
Right. So why the shift?
Well, the shift away from the bride's family footing the entire bill isn't just some whimsical cultural evolution. It is driven by hard macroeconomic realities.
The math just doesn't work anymore.
Exactly. First, we have to look at the sheer compounding effect of inflation over the last few years. The baseline cost to produce a large-scale event with food, alcohol, and live entertainment has skyrocketed.
Yeah, to a point where it is mathematically impossible for a single middle-class family to simply absorb the cost.
Precisely.
But it's not just that the chicken and the chairs cost more, though.
Right.
It's that the entire definition of what constitutes a wedding has totally ballooned.
Oh, absolutely.
We aren't talking about an afternoon ceremony followed by, punch and cake in a local church basement anymore.
No, those days are long gone. The baseline expectation now often involves multi-day, highly curated hospitality experiences.
Yeah, couples are planning welcome drinks on Friday, a massive blowout production on Saturday, and then a catered farewell brunch on Sunday.
You are essentially asking one family to fund and operate a boutique luxury hotel for 75 to 150 people over an entire weekend.
Which is insane when you say it out loud.
It really is. And because the scale of the event has expanded so dramatically, and because the couple is usually the one driving the demand for these highly customized destination-style experiences.
They want the luxury.
Right. They're increasingly expected to put their own skin in the game. They want the high-end details, so they have to become the primary investors.
Okay, but so what does this all mean for the family dynamic? Because I have a major question here.
Go for it.
If we are replacing a rigid, albeit outdated tradition with this modern concept of fairness, don't we run into a massive psychological wall?
What do you mean?
Well, fairness is totally subjective. If
Yeah.
my parents earn half of what my partner's parents earn, dividing the total bill right down the middle doesn't feel fair to my family.
Oh, right.
It feels like an aggressive financial shakedown.
That is the core friction point of the modern wedding. You hit the nail on the head.
It just seems so messy.
It is. The moment you introduce subjective concepts like fairness into high-stakes financial negotiations, you open the door wide for resentment. Families cannot rely on vague promises or a general sense of, oh, we'll just figure it out.
Right, because someone is going to end up feeling cheated.
Exactly. To prevent that resentment, families have to adopt concrete mathematical frameworks. And the guide we are looking at today outlines 3 highly specific models for how to structure these multi-party investments.
Okay, let's break those frameworks down. What's the first one?
The first one is the equal percentage split. Mathematically, it is the cleanest. You look at the total budget and you divide it into equal thirds.
So, like, the bride's family takes on 33%, the groom's family takes 33%.
And the couple covers the remaining 34%.
I mean, I guess it looks beautifully symmetrical on a spreadsheet.
It does. Very neat and tidy.
But wait, practically speaking, unless both sets of parents come from the exact same socioeconomic background, that symmetry is just an illusion.
Oh, 100%.
Because 33% of a modern wedding budget could be pocket change to one family,
Right.
but it could require the other family to pull from their retirement savings or take on debt just to keep up appearances. It creates this invisible, crushing financial pressure to match the in-laws dollar for dollar.
Which is exactly why the equal percentage split is highly discouraged in the source guide unless there is absolute parity in financial flexibility.
So what happens when that parity doesn't exist? Which is, let's be real, most of the time.
Most of the time, yes. When it doesn't exist, families usually pivot to the second framework, which is expense-based division.
Okay, how does that work?
Instead of throwing everyone's money into one massive, intimidating pot, you compartmentalize the budget. You assign specific line items or physical categories to different contributors.
Oh, okay. I can immediately see the psychological benefit of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we use the expense-based model, my family might take total ownership of the venue and the floral design. We control that budget. We sign those contracts.
Right.
And then my partner's family might take total ownership of the catering and the live band. And my partner and I cover our own attire, the photography, and the honeymoon.
Exactly. It creates incredibly clear boundaries. It establishes financial firewalls.
I like that term, financial firewall.
It's crucial. If the groom's family is in charge of the food and beverage, they can make the executive decision to serve a 5-course plated filet mignon. Or they can opt for casual food trucks.
Right. And whatever they decide, their spending does not cannibalize the venue budget that the bride's family is managing.
Precisely.
It also avoids one of the most classic, toxic wedding fights, the guest list subsidy.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if the groom's family wants to invite 50 extended cousins, but they're the ones paying a per-head cost for the catering, the bride's family doesn't feel like they are subsidizing a family reunion for people they have never even met.
The friction is contained.
Containment is a great way to put it.
However, the expense-based model still requires all parties to have a relatively high level of disposable income, just applied to different categories. Caterers and venues are both incredibly expensive line items.
Right. You still need a lot of cash to take on a whole category.
Exactly. Which brings us to the third framework, and this one has really emerged as the most sustainable conflict-free model for 2026.
The ultimate winner. Let's hear the mechanics of it.
It is called contribution-based budgeting.
Okay.
In this scenario, you completely eliminate percentages and you eliminate category assignments entirely.
So no thirds and no assigning the florist.
Right. You decouple the emotional pride from the money.
Yeah.
Every party, both sets of parents and the couple, looks at their own finances in private.
In private. That's key.
Very key. They determine a specific dollar amount they can comfortably contribute without altering their lifestyle or touching their retirement. And they just hand that number to the couple, full stop.
No negotiations, no matching.
No negotiations, no matching.
I love the mechanics of this because it shifts the entire dynamic from a matching negotiation to an opt-in model.
Exactly.
So if family A can comfortably write a check for $20,000 and family B can comfortably give $2,000 and the couple has $5,000 saved up,
You simply add it up?
your total seed funding is $27,000.
Right. And here's the real magic of this approach. The couple then scales the entire event to fit that exact number.
Oh, wow. That is the aha moment of modern wedding planning right there.
It really is. Because fair does not mean equal payments. Fair means comfortable contributions.
Comfortable contribution.
Yes. No one is stretching beyond their means just to save face or project an image of wealth to the other side of the aisle.
Yeah.
The couple knows exactly what their capital is before they sign a single contract.
Okay, but agreeing on a comfortable contribution creates an entirely new logistical nightmare, doesn't it?
Wow.
Because it is one thing to agree on the funding, it is another thing entirely to actually collect that money and spend it over a 12-month period without hounding your mother-in-law for a check every 3 weeks.
That is very true.
Which brings us to the infrastructure required to actually pull this off.
Yes, managing the capital is where most families fall apart. You simply cannot run a complex multi-party budget on the back of an envelope or in a chaotic group chat.
No, that sounds like a disaster.
You need centralized infrastructure. The modern standard demands shared digital budget platforms.
Yeah.
You have to track incoming deposits, pending vendor balances, payment due dates, and an untouched emergency fund in real time.
Right, because there's always a gap between what you think the taxes and service fees will be and what the final invoice actually says.
Always. I mean, a vendor will add a 20% service charge, or a piece of equipment breaks and needs a last-minute rental replacement.
Yep.
And without a digital ledger, those surprises cause immediate panic. Platforms built specifically for this, like Weddizer, give all contributing family members collaborative access.
Weddizer. Okay, so this actually solves a massive interpersonal problem.
How so?
Well, if my parents pledge $10,000 toward the wedding, I don't want to have to call my dad on a Tuesday afternoon and remind him that the photographer needs a $1,500 deposit.
Oh, nobody wants to make that phone call.
Right. With a shared platform, my dad can just log in, see the payment schedule, and process his portion of the contribution directly. The tech removes the emotional friction of constantly asking for money.
Exactly. It automates the awkwardness.
Automates the awkwardness. I love that.
And to make that automation work smoothly, the source guide outlines a very strict, underlying chronological framework that dictates how this money flows out of the accounts.
Okay, what's the timeline?
The recommended timeline operates in 3 distinct phases. Phase 1 hits 10 to 12 months before the event. This is when the initial deposits are due.
Looking at the logic of that 12-month mark, it seems to be entirely driven by scarcity.
What do you mean?
Well, you are dropping those initial deposits to lock down physical space, like the venue, and high-demand human capital, like an elite wedding planner or a highly sought-after photographer.
Right.
You are basically paying to take them off the market.
That is exactly the mechanism at play, yes.
Yeah.
And then phase 2 kicks in around the 6 to 8 month mark. This is when major vendor installment payments are required.
And the logic shifts here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
At 6 months, you aren't just securing their calendar date anymore. You are funding their prep work.
Yes.
The florist needs that installment to actually order the physical flowers from the wholesaler. The caterer needs it to secure the staffing and the raw ingredients.
You are literally funding their supply chain.
Wow.
Finally, phase 3 arrives 1 month prior to the event. This is the hard deadline where all final balances must be cleared.
Okay.
The headcount is locked, the final invoices are generated, and the accounts must hit 0.
Okay, managing that